Welcome back. Yes, Mr. Mike Omeri joins us next. He is a former Director General for the National Orientation Agency. He's also a member of the PDP. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
You know, when you sit back and just watch all that seems to be unfolding in the country, the currency scenario, information about elections, how things have turned out, and you think about orientation, what comes to your mind when you hear people say, look, who's supposed to be telling us how certain things should go? Do you regret how things have turned out so far?
Well, of course I would regret, because I wish we had moved from a notch higher from where we were, you know. But every day I see a downslide in the things we do and how we react to Nigerians, how we even, as a government, interact with Nigerians.
From an NOA perspective, who should be stepping into the gap? From
an NOA perspective, yes, the NOA has a major role to play, critical role to play, but has the government realized, the government in which this important agency is a part of, realized the role of the NOA within the scheme of governance? These are some of the issues that we should interrogate in determining the performance of the NOA in all of these. I saw like few examples of the currency swap and all of that. I have not seen the NOA given the opportunity to discharge full, its duties effectively. I saw them making the effort, but when I see what they do, I know that they are constrained.
Because, I mean, you have the benefit of insight and hindsight. Yes, so yes. You think that they're not getting as much support as they ought to be?
The attention, they are not getting a look in as they should.
But when you were DG of NOA, I'm not sure you got the kind of support, 100% support as you wanted. You didn't speak up, did you?
Yeah, we did. And I remember, proposing to the government that it should be turned into a commission so we can be placed on the first line charge.
Speaking of publicly?
Yes, we did.
Or just to the presidency?
We did. We spoke publicly at the time, I remember. And, what sustained us largely was our interaction with the development partners. But, there's a limit to what they can do and how much they would support you if it does not, tally with their own interest.
If I could just delve into Nasarawa politics, and I think my colleagues will follow up on that a bit much later. Given how events turned out in Nasarawa State, we know we do have some PDP bigwigs in Nasarawa, but how big they are now, the results don't seem to describe them or won't support that tag of PDP being bigwigs in Nasarawa. They say that's history now. If you look at the immediate history, as a matter of fact, the last elections in the state where Labour Party, whoa, who would have thought, Labour Party just coming in and sweeping the state over 191,000 odd votes. And then APC, the ruling government there, was second, and the PDP was a distant third. What makes you think PDP will have any chance to come here?
First and foremost, the obedient movement was a nationwide win that could consume anybody. And you knew most of the votes that the obedient movement got were from members of the People's Democratic Party. We are aware of that because when we went around to solicit for support and explain our direction to the people, they told us that they will vote us, but we should allow them to use their conscience in the presidential election. We pleaded with them. We did the best we could that politicians could do to get them to vote the PDP. But I want to tell you that that win was the same win that won in Delta, the same win that won in the FCT, the same win that just won everywhere. So the labor movement was an indication of this, signs of the time. Perhaps people have seen everyone and they just needed fresh ideas. It was the candidate they went for.
But
from what we saw.
Isn't the same wind about to blow again on Saturday?
Yeah, it will only blow because they went for the candidates. So what we are bringing is an interesting, fresh candidate and perspective to politics and the delivery of service. And we believe people will go for that. And we have seen it already. The Labour candidate in Nasarawa State has already collapsed his structure into the PDP, and not just him, other parties, APM, NRP, you mentioned them. they have all collapsed their structures into the PDP because they have seen the direction and what we want to do. For the first time in a long period, the PDP bigwigs that you mentioned have all come together and gravitated towards this young man who has come with solid ideas. For all of us to support this young man, way younger than all of us, is because we believe that power should gradually transit to those who have the energy, the vision, and let's support Nigeria to move forward.
Well, it's interesting that it's 3 weeks. You had to do a reassessment, a very sharp reassessment in 3 weeks. Yeah. I'm just wondering, though, because I know we're talking specifically about Nasarawa, but, more generally, are there other states where you think that, given what happened 2 Saturdays ago, that the PDP needs to take a closer look at how it has run, perhaps its own affairs in those states?
Well, I have seen, I've heard from colleagues in Plateau, neighboring Plateau, for instance, what is happening there. They are also upbeat and sure of where they are going to. There are states where, yes, the primaries threw up lots of challenges and there are still arguments even as we speak. An election is 2 or 3 days away. Now, these ones, I want to, trust the sophistication of the Nigerian voter, having experienced over 20 years of democracy, to choose the idea, to choose where we want to go collectively. And I don't really, for me, I don't really mind if Nigerians cherry pick candidates based on ideas, based on the perspective, fresh perspectives that are bringing to.
So you don't mind the rice and beans phenomenon, as it's called?
Because we need to run. We have always had politicians who come lie to us, and we have, some. Unfortunately,
that sounds anti-party.
No, I am not.
You
see, I believe in my party. I believe in the ideas that my party would throw up for development. But if you bring a wrong person whose antecedents does not speak well, only that he has the capacity to speak nicely and perhaps dress nicely and present himself, why should I go for him? I want my country to make the progress. I don't want us to still stay in one place.
It seems that, parties have found themselves in difficult situations now, but it's going to be very difficult to say, oh, you know what, vote for my party here, but in another election, vote for another party here. Parties have found themselves in pretty tight situations.
This election in Nasarawa State, we believe that the candidate of the PDP at the presidential level and David Ombugadu for the gubernatorial, and all our candidates, most of our candidates were meant to be candidates for the moment. Because it's not just about their antecedents and experience, but we have seen where they want to take the nation to or the state to. Atiku's candidacy attempted, well, if he had win, and we believe that from what they are doing now, the chances are still there that he could make it if the justice system would follow its own rules. And if it does happen, we have seen a blueprint that is designed to take care of the present, short term, and prepare Nigerians for the bigger bust out, the bigger revolution that we need. So we are equipped, we are challenged to understand that we have a nation to build, and each and every one of us has a responsibility to it. Not to be driven by, little things that attract us to, to vote for people when they just, we lose them. We lose our conscience, we lose our road, and we lose our democracy.
It's interesting you say you spoke to people in neighboring Plateau State. The politics in Plateau is a bit dynamic in the sense that the Labour Party won in Plateau, as it did also in Nasarawa State. But at least some senatorial candidates emerged from other parties, unlike in Plateau, where the PDP won all 3 senatorial seats.
I understand they are discussing to find common grounds in Plateau, and if they do, then the PDP is most likely to take the ticket.
Not from what we heard from the Labour Party candidate.
Well, the Labour Party candidate is my friend, Patrick Dakum. He's a good fellow.
We spoke with him
and we wish he was
in
the PDP because he would stand a better chance in the PDP.
Well, he says he thinks that it is the PDP that should step down for him.
Well, they are discussing, so that is for Plateau politics. Let them discuss. I'm sure they will find common grounds.
Okay, my colleagues have questions for you as well.
something that we'll be interested in, to raise issues around the NOA, and thankfully because you headed that institution at some point. You know, I'm looking at about 15 functions of the NOA, and I'm finding it very difficult to pick just one because they are so nationalistic, very, very precise. One of them, for instance, talks about raising the consciousness of Nigerians about the unity of the country. Another one talks about raising the spirit of patriotism and all of that in Nigerians. Back in time, the parent organization, should I say, of the NOA, which is MAMSA. Many people haven't forgotten the functions and the noise, the resounding noise that MAMSA made in raising the consciousness of patriotism and all of that in Nigerians. What are the challenges that you think the NOA as an institution is having? I know you spaded the matter, but can you help us understand so people can sympathize and possibly even contribute whatever they can to ensure that the NOA performs optimally in the interest of the country?
MAMSA, as a government agency, operated under the military, where they didn't have PDP, APC, and all manner of parties ruling the respective states. So they were getting the right support. Here, where, in fact, our state offices are not getting any support at all from the state governments. When I was there, we proposed that states should give us land, and we will use the meager resources we have to build offices. Because the offices of NOA, visit the one in Lagos. They are locked somewhere. They are, you know, they are not able to have a comfortable place to work. They are not able to do so many things in terms of funding their activities. And this is not coming from government. So unlike the MAMSA days, now the various political parties even misunderstood the role of the NOA. They just see it as a mouthpiece of government and therefore should speak about government programs, projects, and activities only. But this is just a minute part of the role of the NOA, speaking about government programs, policies, and activities to ensure that citizens key in or buy into these programs and contribute their own support into the delivery of governance dividends. Now, for me, I think the NOA, as it is presently constituted, is well trained, is well equipped. It has the staff, it has the vision, and just like you said, I'm happy you went through the mandate of the agency. But is government willing to implement these things? Because some of those items you see there that the agency is supposed to propagate may even run counter to the government's intention. When we were in NOA, we started what we call a weekly polling, asking Nigerians to vote and tell us what they really think government was doing wrong. And we spoke about it. We even sent our findings to the then President Jonathan. He acted on many of them anyway. So some of these reports are not palatable because they are actually telling you where government is failing. And you have to be a government that wants to get that kind of feedback to succeed, not a government that once it gets feedback, it gets angry with the people, gets angry, and then all the feedback we get from government are insults that we've been having in the last couple of years.
Well, Mr. Omeri, if what you are saying is to be considered in the light, as you have said it, being that you have, as Chamberlain said, the benefit of insight and hindsight, is that suggesting to you in any way that governments, be it federal or states, are not interested in the NOA and so it should be scrapped? Or that you would ask for some form of legislation to empower it and compel whatever needs to be done to ensure that it gets the required funding to perform the functions of helping Nigerians see the country as one?
It's unconscionable to ask government to scrap the NOA, noting and knowing what it can do and the capacities within it. What we need to do is to strengthen it to discharge the duties. Let it play its role very well. Look, we have role, the NOA has role to play from the beginning of life in this country. because we need to introduce a number of civic things and value-driven things. We need to engage our traditional rulers who should freely and truthfully, if they believe in this country, tell us what they value most in their communities. Let's incorporate them into what we teach and what we preach, so that our citizens will grow with the values they need, not for the present life, but for their future. Look, because we are not doing that enough, that is why you see people entering government and becoming excessively corrupt. They just look at themselves. The churches and mosques are not doing enough. So, and the NOA is the other arm, is the government church or the government mosque that should provide, that should help inculcate these values into citizens. We need that kind of extensive collaboration, and government should fund the NOA properly. I'm not going to miss this thing. And if should there be any desire, there should be a legislation that will make the NOA as independent as possible to discharge these functions.
Well, Mr. Omeri,
not by
we've had
Nigerians at the time.
My apologies for butting in. We've had a lot of stories around insecurity in the country today. Do you think that we can say part of the reason for the rise in insecurity cases in the country is because NOA has not been as effective as it should have been? That if the NOA had been as efficient and as effective, we wouldn't have as severe security issues that we've had in the past few years?
NOA, I know that NOA has capacity for certain intelligence across the country, but NOA is not the arm that should be held solely responsible for the breakdown of law or insecurity in this country. NOA can assist, NOA can do its job, but we have other agencies whose sole #1 duty is to get intelligence and put a stop to security breaches across the land. And if they are not doing it, you cannot blame the NOA. NOA has a role, yes. It can only teach people, it can only talk, it can mobilize and explain, but there are agencies solely responsible for gathering intelligence and using them. Even NOA, with its capacity for intelligence gathering, shares it with all of these agencies, that I know.
Since we're talking about the role of the NOA, let me begin by drawing attention to the outcome of the presidential and National Assembly elections. Mr. Omeri, if anything, the results enhanced religious and ethnic fault lines, and those two are closely related. If you look at how Plateau State voted, how Nasarawa State voted, and indeed even in the Southwest, how the Southwest voted. The only state that went, that voted differently is Osun. But then again, the result there, has just a very slim margin between the PDP and the All Progressives Congress. So, Mr. Omeri, do you think we should accept this as our fault line, as our default? Or is there any role that the NOA can play in reorientating Nigerians, especially because, if I may borrow your words, you describe the NOA as the church and the mosque of government?
You see, I don't want to even believe that is the outcome, that the outcome of this election is a reflection of our desire to vote candidates based on religion and so forth, and those fault lines. You see, let's look at the antecedents of government. This thing that manifested in the last election is a reflection of where the government took us to. The government deliberately did things that made the rest of the country, to begin to suspect, to begin to look at themselves, to double check whether they are citizens of this country. And so it led to the kind of opinions that we saw. If a government will stay for 8 years and be employing people, engaging people to serve the rest of Nigeria without recourse to ensuring balances and equity and all of that, as if competence resides in the monopoly of just one group, then these are the kind of things that will, that can lead to what we saw in the obedient movement. People have capacity and skills, but they are left out. Then you see someone who may not even have the competence, but he is there simply because the president controls or he's discharging a kind of not equal kind of disposition. So that translated into what you saw. Would we say that the labor movement that removed Philip Aduda in the FCT, a Christian, and brought a Muslim, is Christian-driven? It's not. Would you say that in Okowa State, that is predominantly Muslim, and the Christians lost there, how would you explain those? Or in Nasarawa State and so forth? The case in Nasarawa is just a deliberate attempt by some people who have failed to deliver. Then they resort to the religious value to get the attention
I wonder
they
if
they deserve.
I wonder if all of
voters.
I wonder
Because
if those examples.
For instance, in Nasarawa,
Pardon me to coming there.
we woke up. I am giving you an example.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
For instance, in Nasarawa State, the voters said they will be obedient and vote. And among this crowd, we saw Muslims, we saw those who do not profess Islam and Christianity, we saw Christians. We saw them. But as soon as the election was over, people came and started insinuating all manner of things, insulting people, calling people infidels, and all sorts of things in Nasarawa. So who is doing this? And why should they do that? We have voted Muslims all these years and nobody complained. Just that one Christian has a chance to win. Everybody, hell must be let loose. Everybody must go to and burn himself there. These are the kind of it's individuals who promote this, not the desire of Nigerians solely. It's the politicians, some of the politicians who do this. And that is what we want to run away from. And that is why we're even supporting our candidate, David Mbugadu. Because we have seen his antecedents and we know that if he comes in, he will treat everyone on the basis of equality and discharge the responsibility of that office according to the provisions and letter of the Constitution.
I wonder if
and
those
I wouldn't
examples,
be part of that kind of
Mr.
game
Omeri,
that will come and divide my people.
Pardon me, Mr. Omeri, I wonder if those examples that you have cited are as far-reaching as possible, to really give the election a different outlook rather than what it looks like. But still on the outcome of the presidential and National Assembly elections, we have 8 political parties that have emerged, as parties that will be represented at the National Assembly. And of course, the Labour Party significantly played, a game-changing role in the elections, such that we no longer have a 2-party state, a 3-party state, even dotted by other political parties. What do you see the National Assembly, what kind of 10th National Assembly do you think we'll be seeing with this entry, into the fray of other political parties besides the 2 main political parties?
Allowed to discharge their role effectively as legislators. They will bring, the check that the legislature itself needed to discharge its own function. Because when you have a majority in one party, if the policies they are propounding are not good, we end up with bad policies, bad legislation. We have seen it in recent past. So let these various parties come with their own ideas. Let them interrogate the issues that are being thrown up for legislation. And should we do that? If we do that, I am sure we'll have better laws. We'll have a government that is, held accountable, is able to be held accountable by the legislature.
So if I understand you right, the PDP in Nasarawa is hoping that the collapse of the structure or the coming together or working together with the Labour Party and some other parties is expected to guarantee them victory for the polls.
In addition to our own capacity and the level of support and the vision that we have, yes.
So how do we explain, because if you said that they wanted to express themselves by voting Labour Party, how do you explain SDP winning senatorial seats?
Real politics. I don't know whether I should discuss it the way I know it, but I knew it affects the other parties, the APC and the Labour Day. These SDP candidates and winners are a product of a mishap in the APC. So they left because they had issues with their primaries and all of that. They scattered and supported themselves the way they did. Some of them are still in APC, only that they are factions of the APC.
So they'll be working for APC in
Well,
the
let's
governorship
see how far
elections.
they can go, because I want to tell you, and you can take it, you can call me back, that any attempt by those people to work for the APC will backfire.
How do you mean?
Because majority of the people in those areas also voted the candidates for those offices and not the SDP or the APC. And they are coming right back to vote the PDP.
I thought you said some of them were APC, they didn't handle it well, so they supported themselves.
Well, it's about the people, forget the candidates. I'm talking about the candidates that emerged. But the people will come back to the PDP.
So what is your assessment now? That in addition to this, they will come back to the PDP, which means what? They will give PDP an edge in the governorship elections,
yes.
and PDP will win and APC will
The
not?
PDP should win, based on our projection, with close to 100,000 votes.
But you know that the party, the ruling party, APC, haven't seen where they probably made mistakes. Will also go back home and make, ensure that they cover up their mistakes, atone for their mistakes, and come out stronger.
My brother, time is not on their side. And the wounds inflicted are deep on themselves.
Is time on PDP side?
Yeah. Because we have been there with the people, our people that voted Labour, our people that voted other people, and they are back to us.
But you were there before, and then you lost to the PDP.
Yes, we lost. We lost to the APC.
Sorry, you lost to the APC.
Yes, we lost to the APC.
And not even for the first time.
We didn't lose.
For almost like the
somebody,
second administration.
No, let's get it right. They never won the elections. They stole it. I want to tell you this.
Wow.
They stole it because,
well.
hold on. In Karu here, just next door, they cancelled over 100,000 votes for no reason. No reason was given.
It'll be interesting to see how...
And those are our votes. They didn't cancel their votes, they canceled our votes. As usual, why should we manipulate? Why should we do this for power?
It'll be interesting to see how matters eventually pan out, with the governorship elections. But, interestingly, flawed as the elections have been described, as being, it has thrown up very interesting results. And it would seem that largely, if you look at the results that have come out in each state, it has also gone in tandem with the politics playing out in that state. For instance, took a look at what is happening or happened in your own state where the Labour Party won. You can easily explain what has happened in your own state that will produce those kinds of results. So going forward, looking at our electoral process, imperfect as it might be, what would you say to the average Nigerian voter who was deeply disillusioned by how the process went on Saturday?
First, what I saw in that last election, we kept saying the obedience had no structure. But the obedience conducted the election. And they conducted the election to win. They didn't conduct the election to manipulate. Okay? Because of the age bracket of those who were officials of INEC, they fall within the majority that propelled the obedient movement to where it went. So they actually conducted the election, and I praise them for that.
I don't understand. How do you mean? Are you suggesting something untoward?
No, they didn't. I didn't say so. What I am saying is that they brought some sense of responsibility to it because they were dedicated to pursuing the cause in most of the places that I have seen. But there are people who are questioning one or two things. I didn't say that INEC officials at that level, did some untoward things. But I saw them at least conducting and organizing the exercise. It was peaceful and nice, except that very few instances of those who are used to thuggery, snatch ballot box or snatch beavers and so forth, very few here and there. But those who conducted the exercise were more organized.
Because when you talk about this question of structure, haven't seen the way things turned out and the way Labour Party performed in the country. So is that to say that the notion that they bandied around so much, the question of structure, is dying, if not dead already?
Yes, because people are now looking at the candidates. That's the point I made. If you bring a good candidate, people will cherry pick until the people are now getting involved in the attempt to build our democracy. They are not relying only on the elites who control the levers of power and steal everything to the chagrin of the masses.
I think I have a question for you.
Chamberlain, let me just ask this one thing, Mr. Omeri, perhaps in the same spirit of the question mark where I asked you earlier. Many people are asking the question, what's the difference between the PDP and the APC or any other political party at that. So let me ask you pointedly, what would you say is the ideological difference between the PDP and any other political party in Nigeria?
The coming together of politicians in 1998, 99 was first and foremost to take power from the military. They were all organized, people from various shades of opinion that we knew from our past. The MPN days, the NPP days, and so forth, and so all gravitated to one corner just to get power. As we move, democracy grows, people will now, begin to move to their own places. So you are finding, we found people who called themselves progressives, but they were then, as you know, majority of them were in the conservative bent. The PDP that was supposed to be, driven by the progressives of the 80s are now beginning to look like the conservatives, but they are not. And that is why we are throwing in new, younger persons into the field. And, let me say that as we evolve, the true ideology of these political parties will come. But as it is now, it's a confusion. Everybody is looking for a table to grab power. That is what I see. You are just looking for a platform to take power. So Nigerians are not, in fact, Nigeria has never had any ideological-driven system of government. We have always been non-aligned, and that has affected our focus, our direction as a government. We are just there, taking from China, America, England, everywhere. So this new movement, new direction, where the citizens, like I said, are beginning to be part of the development of our democratic culture, will lead us to defining our democratic values based on whether they are liberal democracies or social democracy or capitalist democracy and so forth. Although we see a lot of capitalism all over the place where everybody wants to grab everything for himself, and well, that one definitely is not is fraudulently done.
So just as we wind down, do you think the PDP regrets how they conducted themselves for these presidential elections?
Of course, I have my personal opinion to that, which may be different from what the PDP, because I felt that we should have entered that election as a united family no matter the cost. And we didn't do that. The PDP is still looking at what went wrong. That is actual election day.
People thought it's glaring, because they thought that politicians in PDP who've been there for a long time, haven't been contesting elections for a long time, should have seen these signs coming.
I was discussing with someone yesterday, and I saw things played out. Even some politicians in the PDP felt that the ruling government was not at peace with itself. So they thought they could capitalize on one or two things, but I was a dummy, as what I've seen.
Wow, dummy, you say? Oh dear, I guess. But losing Lagos was not a dummy, was it?
Well, it's part of the story.
Okay, not a dummy.
Maybe we will write a book someday to explain what happened. Because the Lagos thing, if we are to believe that the part of the election was orchestrated, we will explain the loss of Lagos and some other places along that line. Because where PDP or APC is losing to Labour Party, the gap was very small, even where the other party...
Okay, I know we need to go, but do you think politicians will or still underestimate young people in this country?
I don't think so, and I want to encourage... That's why we are supporting David Ombugadu in Nasarawa State. He's younger, he's energetic, he has discharged, something credibly we saw. So let's get our young people out there, let them do the work.
Okay, so this Saturday, hopefully, they will be out there to follow up whatever they did, wherever they did it in the February elections. Well, thank you for coming on, Mr. Michael Omeri, former DG, NOA, and a member of the PDP. We will be back in a moment from Lagos this time. Stay with us.